you ever feel like your life's just up in the air? Maybe you feel left hanging due to a job change or a health crisis or a money situation or a death in your family or a friend. I feel sometimes that life has left me hanging a bit right now, and I needed to be reminded about some things that would help get my feet back on the ground. And so this morning, I want us to think about the greatness of God and those things that maybe have taken the wind out of your sails or left you up in the air like me. Maybe this will help today. For me, there are just a number of situations the past 6 months that have been a little bit difficult to handle at times. There have been several deaths, some in our church family, some that are our friends. I've mentioned some of those before. I was close to Cindy Garman, close to Jeff Nelson, our funeral director. And Jeff was somebody that took me under his wing and said, this is how we do things in Wymore. This is how a funeral is supposed to go. And so now, he's not here. So I got to put my big boy pants on, and I got to put my arm around whoever new guy comes and say, this is how we do things here in Wymore. This is how we do things at the Church of Christ. Louise has taken me under her wing in many ways as well, training me as a first-time pulpit minister. And now she's retiring. So I have to put my big boy pants on, and I have to put my arm around somebody else and say, this is how we do things in the church office, and this is how things go, and this is what it means to serve in a church setting. Kind of up in the air. Had a friend pass away last fall. He's my ex-brother-in-law. So his sister was married to my brother, and they're divorced now. So he's my ex-brother-in-law. And I found out this fall that he had been battling liver cancer. I didn't know that. He was a minister. And Rebecca actually lived with his family before we got married, Noel Sullivan. I don't know if I've ever told you, Marlon and Mickey, he got liver cancer and he passed away a couple of months ago. Yeah, I don't tell you anything. Well, you're always gone, Cleaver, so that's how that works. New Jersey, Iowa, Africa, I don't know. But Noel was somebody that we worked with, and he had us on stage doing music and instruments for really the first time out of our home church setting. And so, Noel's not there. In February, Rich Milliken announced that he was resigning as the president of Nebraska Christian College. That seemed somewhat abrupt. And so they don't know exactly what they're going to do. That's Verge Marshall's son-in-law, and he's been president of the college for 15 years. And Rich has been somebody that's mentored us, and Rich and Carolyn have mentored Rebecca and I and been there for us in some difficult circumstances. And now I don't know where Rich is going, but I got to reach out to a new Bible college professor. And I have a good friend, his name's Brian. He resigned as a police chief here in Wymore. And he's going to go work at the courthouse in Beatrice. And I'm used to being able to call Brian up and say, Brian, do you know so-and-so? Have they been running in your circles lately? And he'll many times say yes. And, he can share a little bit about the situation. And that's been nice. We're not going to have that. I'm going to have to reach out to a new police chief and, form relationship there. Neva Chapp has been playing at Early Church for years. Well, she's at cancer and she's at home, and those of you who have been taking her communion, thank you. She appreciates that, but you guys are the ones coming away blessed, right, as she handles her illness and in the face of death, just a calm demeanor. I'm going to miss Neva playing in Early Church here. What else is going on? You know what? On top of everything else, my meat guy, Kent Hohensee, down at the store, he resigned. I can't even, who am I going to call now when I need a good price on meat? I just don't know. On top of everything else. So sometimes, if you're like me, maybe you feel like your feet are a little bit up in the air. You're kind of left hanging. I'm certain of this, though. When you feel like life has left you hanging, then you need to continue to hang on to our great God. I'd like to consider Job. Life left him hanging. He was originally a rather wealthy man from the land of Uz. I had to look that up. That's northern Arabia. So he's a desert dweller, but he's a desert dweller with some bucks because he has a house and he has a family and he has a lot of different kinds of herds, and he happens to be a follower of God. And so Job is living his life just, going along willy-nilly as life goes, right? You don't really expect things to hit you, but life comes at you fast, and that's about to happen with Job. He's doing his thing. Meanwhile, Satan goes up to heaven. And the Lord asks him, where have you been? What have you been doing? Oh, I've been going around just messing up people's lives. Stealing, killing, destroying, just wreaking havoc wherever I happen to go. And everybody's just, they don't even know what to do. The Lord says, really? Have you considered my servant Job? That might present a challenge for you, wise old Satan. Maybe Job is going to be a man of integrity after all, and he's not going to curse me. And I don't think that anything that you do to Job is going to really rattle him. So God says, I'm going to give you a go-ahead to go and mess with Job aside from killing him. Incidentally, the Hebrew word for Job is booyah. Guys, you like that, men? Booyah. It's actually, Hebrew is booyah, but, let's not get all technical here. I kind of like booyah. I think I'll stick with that. Bam. Here you go. Here's my servant Job, and do what you want with him. Just don't take his life. Well, his 7 sons, 3 daughters die tragically in a tornado. Different raiders come and they run off with his sheep and oxen and donkeys and camels. He's afflicted with sores from head to foot. And I don't want to be gross here, but sometimes the Bible has some imagery. Here's Job, and he's experienced all this loss, and life has thrown him for a loop. He's hanging barely by a thread. He's sit down in sackcloth and in ashes with these sores from head to toe. He has a piece of pottery he's using to scrape his sores. I don't know if any of us have been there, actually. Maybe close. I don't think I'm exactly there. I think Job might have it a little bit worse than me. He's hanging by a thread. His friends say, this is your fault. His wife says, man, it's God's fault. Curse God and die. Job doesn't know what to think. He's left with some questions. And finally, God speaks. So I'd like you to open your Bibles to where God speaks. It's in Job chapter 38. It's on page 531 of your backseat Bible. Because we've had all this debate. Job's friends come. He has 3 friends, and then he has a worse friend. And they're all just pretty mean to him. And Job has some questions. His wife has some questions. 37 chapters are wrangling over this. Why does God let bad things happen to good people? And God says that's the wrong question to be asking. So, Job chapter 38, it begins. And we're not going to see anything on the screen except apparently a scripture with the word Elijah on it. So you're going to get bored looking at that. I suggest you dig into the word here. Then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm. He said, who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Well, can you imagine God saying this to you? You have all these questions, and all this stuff has happened, and God's like, brace yourself like a man. I kind of like it. I would translate that verse this way, this first part of this. God's saying, who darkens my doorway? You tried to shed light on this subject, but you only managed to muddy the waters. Brace yourself like a man. Here's another good one for guys. That literally means gird up your loins. That's prepare yourself for battle. In other words, put on your big boy pants. I will question you and you will answer me. Well, I don't like that translation either. You shall answer me. Answer is the word yadah, which means to know, as in a husband and wife, how they know each other. So God says, I will question you and you will know me. I'm going to reveal myself to you. I need to remind you of some things. I need you to sit there while I remind you just how great I am, and you're going to be glad that you're my child. You're going to know me in a new way. So here's what he asks him. And the Lord has a sense of humor. I just love as he asks these questions. He knows the answers to them, of course. And he's being a bit sarcastic and a bit snide, and I think the Lord has that right. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation, Job? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? Anybody have a tape measure that wide, that long? I don't think so. On what were its footings set, or who laid its cornerstone, while the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy? And this is one of those little things that reminds us that Job is all poetic. Okay, that's why there are breaks in the text and little things here and there, because it's all Hebrew poetry and we're missing a lot of it. But this is one of those glimpses where God himself is poetic. Who shut up the sea behind doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness, when I fixed limits for it and set its doors and bars in place, and I said, this far you may come and no further. Here is where your proud waves halt. God set off boundaries, apparently, for the sea. I don't think Job was there. Have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place? Have you ever thought about that? I mean, God has set natural things in place, but it's all submitted to him. You know, can you imagine that God every 24 hours says, son, it's time to shine. You get out there and wake these people up. Get on out here now. Go do your thing. Have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place that it may take the earth by the edges and shake the wicked out of it? It's almost like this rug that you take outside and it sheds light. Why this deal with the wicked? Well, they can't do their thing when it's light out. The earth takes shape like clay under a seal. Its features stand out like those of a garment, so like a stamp. The wicked are denied their light, and their upraised arm is broken. Have you journeyed to the springs of the sea or walked in the recesses of the deep? They didn't have submarines back then. Have the gates of death been shown to you? Have you seen the gates of the deepest darkness? Have you comprehended the vast expanses of the earth? Tell me if you know all this, Job. What is the way to the abode of light? Where does darkness reside? Can you take them to their places? Do you know the paths to their dwellings? Surely you know, for you were already born. You've lived so many years. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow? How about that song, Indescribable, huh? You know, a lot of this stuff comes from Scripture, and here it is. So, have you entered the storehouses of the snow or seen the storehouses of the hail, which I reserve for times of trouble, for days of war and battle? What is the way to the place where the lightning is dispersed, or the place where the east winds are scattered over the earth? Who cuts a channel for the torrents of rain and a path for the thunderstorm, to water a land where no one lives, an uninhabited desert, to satisfy a desolate wasteland and make it sprout with grass? Have we ever considered that life is not all about us, and that God does things even where there's no people there to see it, just because he can? Does the rain have a father? Who fathers the drops of dew? From whose womb comes the ice? Who gives birth to the frost from the heavens? When the waters become hard as stone, when the surface of the deep is frozen. God is God of the weather as well. Yeah, there's some natural processes in place, but ultimately it's under God's domain too. And some of my favorite verses here. Job 38:31. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Can you bring forth the constellations in their seasons, or lead out the bear with its cubs? Do you know the law of the heavens? Can you set up God's dominion over the earth? How cool. This just blows my mind. Job lives at the same time as Abraham, 2,000 years before Jesus, 2000 BC. And God is speaking and saying the names of constellations. Orion. Does anyone not know Orion? Like the most recognizable constellation in the night sky. You know where Orion's belt is? You can go just a little bit over and there's a couple little lines like this, and that's Aries, because those are the horns of the ram. And then you go a little bit further over and there's this little sparkly speck place, and that's called the Pleiades, the beautiful Pleiades, and God binds those together. There are 7 stars. You can only see 6 with the naked eye, but amazing, again, that God has set these things in the stars just so that He can, just for His pleasure. I think that that is absolutely amazing. How about this bear with its cubs? See, the Jews called that the bear and her cubs before people knew about the Big Dipper. We call it the Big Dipper. What's the proper name of it? Does anyone know? Ursa Major. What's that mean? No, it means big bear. Ursa's bear. Ursa Major, bear major, the big bear. And the dipper part of it is the mama bear. And the three little things and 3 stars in the handle, those are the baby bears that follow mama bear all across the sky. And God set all that up. That's amazing to me. Can you raise your voice to the clouds and cover yourself with a flood of water? Do you send the lightning bolts on their way? Do they report to you, "Here we are"? Who gives the ibis wisdom or gives the rooster understanding? How does a rooster know when to crow? They have an internal clock or something like that? How do birds know where to go? You know, God puts that stuff there. Who has the wisdom? I won't get into the ibis because I don't know what it is. Look it up. Who has the wisdom to count the clouds? Who can tip over the water jars of the heavens when the dust becomes hard and the clods of earth stick together? So we can't control any of the weather. We can't control the stars or the sea or the earth or anything, all this creation. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger of the lion? See, now we're going to talk about some critters that are out there in nature and wild. Who provides food for the raven when its young cry to God and wander about for lack of food? Do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Do you watch when the doe bears her fawn? I've never seen that happen. Have you guys? I don't know. That's a good question for Earl, if he's ever seen a deer give birth to a fawn. He spends a lot of time out there. He might have, but I haven't. Do you count the months till they bear? Do you know the time they give birth? They crouch down and bring forth their young. Their labor pains are ended. Their young thrive and grow strong in the wilds. They leave and don't return. Who let the wild donkey go free? Who untied its ropes? I give it the wasteland as its home, the salt flats as its habitat. It laughs at the commotion in the town. It doesn't hear a driver's shout. It ranges the hills for its pasture and searches for any green thing. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? I think another translation has buffalo. That's what we need to be thinking here. Wild ox is like a buffalo, Tatanka, a big buffalo here going on. Will it stay by your manger at night? Can you hold it in the furrow with a harness? Will it till the valleys behind you? Will you rely on it for its great strength? Will you leave your heavy work to it? Can you trust it to haul in your grain and bring it to your threshing floor? Then he talks about the wings of the ostrich. He talks about how dumb the ostrich is. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. Where does it think it's going with the wings? It's going to get off the ground? Seriously? Though they cannot compare with the wings and feathers of the stork, she lays her eggs on the ground and lets them worm in the sand, unmindful that a foot may crush them, that some wild animal may trample them. She treats her young harshly as if they were not hers. She cares not that her labor was in vain. For God didn't endow her with wisdom or give her a share of good sense. Yet when she spreads her feathers to run, she laughs at horse and rider. Do you give the horse its strength or clothe its neck with a flowing mane? Do you make it leap like a locust, striking terror with its proud snorting? It paws fiercely, rejoicing in its strength, and charges into the fray. It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. Well, I've seen a lot of horses that are afraid, but he's talking about a war horse here that's going into battle. It laughs at fear. It doesn't shy away from the sword. The quiver rattles against its side, along with a flashing spear and lance. In frenzied excitement, it eats up the ground. It cannot stand still when the trumpet sounds. The blast of the trumpet, it snorts, aha! It catches the scent of battle from afar, the shout of commanders and the battle cry. Does a hawk take flight by your wisdom and spread its wings toward the south? Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? It dwells on a cliff and stays there at night. A rocky crag is its stronghold. From there it looks for food. Its eyes detect it from afar. Its young ones feast on blood, and where the slain are, there it is. So we've had a lot of examples here about things that God is greater than, and greater than all this creation. And so Job waves his white flag. All right. The Lord said to Job, will the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? Let him who accuses God answer him. Then Job answered the Lord, I'm unworthy. How can I reply to you? I put my hand over my mouth. I spoke once, but I have no answer, twice, but I will say no more. So he's like, okay, it's over, right? It's over. Then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm. Brace yourself like a man. I will question you and you shall answer me. We aren't done here, buddy. You're going to stay right there and you're going to take this and you're going to listen a little bit more. A couple other examples here. Look at verse 15, Job 40:15. Look at behemoth. What is behemoth? Large land creature thing. Which I made along with you and which feeds on grass like an ox. Well, you read this and you'll figure out what it is. God did make the dinosaurs alongside humans because God made all creatures at the same time, at least the same week, the same 6-day period, and they're reptiles, and so God would have done that. It's interesting, if you go down to Texas, there's a river there that has large dinosaur footprints there, and there are human footprints within the dinosaur footprints, and they're all fossilized together. So God here says that he made the dinosaurs along with us. See if that's accurate. Is this a dinosaur? What strength it has in its loins, what power in the muscles of its belly. Its tail sways like a cedar. The sinews of its thighs are close knit. Its bones are tubes of bronze, its limbs like rods of iron. It ranks first among the works of God, yet its maker can approach it with his sword. The hills bring it their produce, and all the wild animals play nearby. Under the lotus plant it lies, hidden among the reeds in the marsh. Now wait a minute, that can't be a dinosaur. Well, even evolutionary scientists say that Brontosaurus couldn't have supported its own weight. It needed some water, so it lives on land like it doesn't live in the sea, but it's still a land creature, and it's in the water, burying itself down. Under the lotus plants it lies, hidden among the reeds in the marsh. The lotuses conceal it in their shadow. The poplars by the stream surround it. It needs habitat. A raging river doesn't alarm it. It is secure, though the Jordan should surge against its mouth. Well, how big would its mouth have to be for a river to surge against his mouth? Can anyone capture it by the eyes or trap it and pierce its nose? Sounds like dinosaur-ish to me. Some people say that it's a crocodile. Well, a lot of people can capture crocodiles. We know, right? We've seen that. That's not so hard. The answer to this is no one can trap it or pierce its nose. Next example, if you thought that was weird, the next example is weirder. It's Leviathan. Leviathan is deep sea creature thing. Okay? Can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook or tie down its tongue with a rope? Can you put a cord through its nose or pierce its jaw with a hook? The answer is no. Will it keep begging you for mercy? Will it speak to you with gentle words? Will it make an agreement with you for you to take it as your slave for life? Can you make a pet of it like a bird or put it on a leash for the young women in your house? Will traders barter for it? Reminds me of, what is that? The little chihuahua that the girl, anyway. I forget. I didn't see that movie, man. Will traders barter for it? Will they divide it up among the merchants? Can you fill its hide with harpoons or its head with fishing spears? If you lay a hand on it, you will remember the struggle and never do it again. Any hope of subduing it is false. The mere sight of it is overpowering. No one is fierce enough to rouse it. Who then is able to stand against me? Who has a claim against me that I must pay? Everything under heaven belongs to me. I will not fail to speak of Leviathan's limbs, its grace, its strength, and its graceful form. Who can strip off its outer coat? Who can penetrate its double coat of armor? Who dares open the doors of its mouth, ringed about with fearsome teeth? All right, this is getting a little strange. What is this creature? Its back has rows of shields tightly sealed together. Each is so close to the next, no air can pass between. They are joined fast to one another. They cling together and cannot be parted. Its snorting throws out flashes of light. Its eyes are like the rays of dawn. Flames stream from its mouth. Sparks of fire shoot out. Who made up a dragon anyway? There are a lot of extinct creatures out there, people, including the dinosaurs and apparently Leviathan dragon thing that lives in the sea. Or the Loch Ness Monster. I don't know. Strength resides in its neck. Dismay goes before it. Oh, wait. Smoke pours from its nostrils. See, there's more smoke and fire and flames and flashes of light. Its breath sets coals ablaze. Its flames dart from its mouth. Strength resides in its neck. Dismay goes before it. The folds of its flesh are tightly joined. They're firm and immovable. Its chest is as hard as rock, hard as a lower millstone. That's a big piece of rock there. And it's just as strong. When it rises up, the mighty are terrified. They retreat before its thrashing. The sword that reaches it has no effect, nor does the spear, or the dart, or the javelin. Iron it treats like straw, and bronze like rotten wood. Arrows don't make it flee. Sling stones are like chaff to it. A club seems to it but a piece of straw. It laughs at the rattling of the lance. Its undersides are jagged potsherds, leaving a trail in the mud like a threshing sledge. It makes the depths churn like a boiling cauldron and stirs up the sea like a pot of ointment. It leaves a glistening wake behind it. One would think the deep had white hair. Nothing on earth is its equal, a creature without fear. It looks down on all that are haughty. It is king over all that are proud. All right, just 4 more chapters of this, how great God is. Not really. We're almost done here. But think about this. God is great, isn't He? He's greater than the earth, the sea. He's greater than day and night, greater than darkness and light, greater than rain, snow, hail, lightning, dew, ice, floods, frost, stars, constellations, lions, mountain goats, wild donkeys, ostriches, horses, hawks, eagles, dinosaurs, dragons, sea creatures. That's just the created stuff. That's His creation, right? So how great is God if He created those things? It's just amazing. And finally, Job replied to the Lord, I know you can do all things. No purpose of yours can be thwarted. You asked, who is this that obscures my plans without knowledge? Surely I spoke of things I didn't understand, things too wonderful for me to know. You said, listen now, and I will speak. I will question you, and you shall answer me or know me. My ears have heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. God is greater than anyone or anything, and that includes me. And who am I to think that life revolves around me or that God needs anything from me? He's good. He's great. So I would suggest today, when life leaves you hanging, continue hanging on to our great God. And if we could have, in light of decision time, invitation, Job's name, Booyah, means return. It's time to return to worship God in the midst of everything. And I think this morning was a good start. If you've been left hanging, find your feet and find your ground in the Lord. He will lift you up out of that slimy pit. He will set your feet on solid ground on a rock that doesn't move, and that rock is Jesus. And He came to die for your sins and rose again so we can experience life, brand new life. The thief comes to steal and kill and destroy. But Jesus came that we may have life and have it abundantly. And that life can start today for you.